Hello there and welcome to World News Program, streaming to you live on All 24 News. I'm your host, Kiran Zachary, and up next are the headlines. In the last 24 hours, 3 Zionist massacres left 29 dead and many more injured in Gaza amid continuous bombings. Meanwhile, residents of Rafah are worried about a possible invasion. Palestinian resistance demands a halt to aggression for the prisoner exchange deal to be completed. Meanwhile, soldiers from the occupying force were killed and injured near Rafah, and the Zionist occupation blocks aid at Karam Abu Salim crossing. That's next. Also coming up, the LYC summit passed a resolution back in Palestine and praised the Algerian president's support. And ahead at the Gambia summit, LYC leaders support a meeting between Algeria, Tunisia and Libya. Algeria and Libya affirm their commitment to mutual interest. Stay tuned, the details are right after the break. Hello again and welcome to the details. First off in our news, within just 24 hours, at least 29 Palestinians were killed and 110 injured in 3 separate massacres by Zionist occupation forces in Gaza. The death toll in Gaza has now reached 34,683, with 78,018 injured since the start of the Zionist aggression, ongoing now for 212 days. Many Palestinians remain trapped under rubble or on roads, with ambulance crews blocked from reaching them by the occupation forces. And at dawn on Sunday, bombings targeted displaced homes across Gaza, resulting in more casualties. Artillery shelling in Gaza City and airstrikes in other areas also claimed lives, such as in Gaza's Rafah city. Palestinians in Rafah, southern Gaza, fear a Zionist invasion, with over 1.5 million displaced people crowded in the area. The World Health Organization warns of a potential bloodbath if the Zionist entity does indeed launch a military attack. Here's Zahra Farjani with the report.
Displaced Palestinians in Rafah, Gaza are facing unimaginable suffering. Their attempt to flee the bloody Zionist war machine in search of peace was in vain, as the occupation always finds a way to make civilians get caught in another storm of continuous bombing.
They are saying that Rafah is safe, but that's a lie. They're lying to people. Where's the safety? Where is it? Look. That's the safety that we witness in Rafah. This is Rafah. Every day they strike and hit it. Come on and go into Rafah and end this story. Destroy Rafah and let us end this. That's what's left. This is a genocidal war.
In defiance of all international laws and warnings, the Zionist forces keep on targeting civilians' homes, leaving behind a trail of death and destruction.
I was at home, and between me and them, there was only about 500 meters. We heard the strike, and shortly after, they told us that the house of Abu Sab al-Attar was hit. So we went, we found it hit, and praise to God. Were there wanted people by the army? Sure, there were wanted people. There were girls, women, infants, and children. They're all wanted by the Israeli army.
Amid international fears of an expected military invasion of the region, these Palestinians in Rafah scramble to salvage anything they can from the ruins of their homes after airstrikes launched by the occupation at night blew up residential complexes.
No, there's no safety. There's no safety at all in Rafah. Every day there are strikes. It's just propaganda for the West to show that there's safety in Rafah. But there's no safety at all in Rafah.
Facing hunger and dire conditions, displaced families hold on to hope for a return home, even as the threat of death looms with every bomb. International observers warn of a potential bloodbath, heightening global concerns over escalating crisis in a case of a ground invasion in Rafah.
And on Sunday, the Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas insisted on halting Zionist aggression for a prisoner exchange deal to be completed. Ismail Haniyeh, the head of the movement's political bureau, described Hamas's stance as positive and crucial for a ceasefire. He mentioned conducting pre-negotiation contacts and intense meeting before sending a delegation to Cairo. The Palestinian resistance, meanwhile, inflicted casualties on Zionist soldiers near Rafah. Video footage from Al-Qassam brigades showed fighters destroying occupation command headquarters and concentrations at Karam Abu Salim military site with Rajum missiles. They also seized a Zionist drone in Khan Yunis. Al-Quds brigade shared scenes of controlling a Zionist Skylark aircraft during the Battle of Al-Aqsa flood. The Zionist occupation forces shut down the Karam Abu Salim crossing to humanitarian aid entering Gaza, citing a missile threat. Palestinian media said false pretexts were used to hinder aid arrival to a region facing dire shortages. Additionally, the Beit Hanun crossing north of Gaza has been closed since the start of Zionist aggression, limiting aid entry despite sanctities, I'm saying. In Gaza City, facing destruction and starvation due to Zionist aggression, severe food restrictions make daily life unbearable for the residents. Residents like Abu Khalil here, who endure long queues at bakeries just to turn around into a man's land by the occupation. Here's Salman Asib with the story.
Abu Khalil pedals his bike through the rubble-strewn streets of Gaza on a mission to buy bread for his family. Leading a household of 12, this Palestinian father resides in a rented apartment, his own home damaged by Zionist airstrikes. His daughter battles cancer and struggles with trachea problems, now living under the same roof with her parents and 2 children. Khalil, the family's sole provider, makes a daily pilgrimage to the bakery to ensure his loved ones have food on a table.
The conditions are difficult, even though they were tough in the past. They are even more so today. Now somehow bread is available, but we don't have enough access. To it. I have no income or job. We are waiting to receive coupons to try to get something to eat.
The north of the Strip is on the edge of famine. Despite the urgent need for aid to stave off hunger, Gaza has received no significant assistance since March. Desperate Palestinians scour for food, clinging to the hope that an end to the war will bring relief.
That aid is not available all the time. Vegetables, for example, have not been available for a period of no less than 2 months. Aid is very little. We thank God for everything. Aid is not available, so I can't say we have enough. But me and my family ration what we receive to get by. We say thanks to God.
Since October 7, the Gaza Strip has become an open-air graveyard, with thousands of Palestinians falling victim to the Zionist bombings and hunger alike. The humanitarian crisis in Gaza is spiraling out of control, with famine looming as a deadly threat to even more lives.
The Organization of Islamic Cooperation's 15th summit in Banjul concluded with the approval of a resolution on Palestine. The summit's final statement commended the UN Security Council's efforts to halt Zionist attacks in Gaza, leading to a ceasefire resolution. Leaders also praised Algeria's support for Palestine. The organization expressed gratitude for President Abdelmajid Tebboun's efforts and the reunification conference culminated in the Algiers Declaration on October 12, 2022, advancing Palestinian unity. Algeria and the African Union explored avenues to bolster African solidarity and backing for the Palestinian cause. Algerian Prime Minister Nadir Al-Arbawi met with African Union Commission Chairman Moussa Faki on Saturday to discuss international and regional developments. They exchanged views on key African developments and the African Union's future prospects. Libyan Presidential Council Representative Moussa Al-Kouni criticized the Organization of Islamic Cooperation's 15th summit in Banjul, Gambia. He denounced the summit's failure to address the situation in Gaza, calling it a betrayal. Al-Kouni expressed his disappointment via his social media account.
If an Islamic summit is convened amid the destruction of Gaza, it should be extraordinary. Summit solely dedicated to Gaza, addressing the onslaught by a ruthless enemy. However, during the event in Banjul, I was deeply disheartened by its deviation from this purpose. In my spontaneous speech, I denounced this betrayal. How can it be justifiable for the youth of universities worldwide to mobilize in support of Gaza while the nation remains silent and it isn't halting the aggression our primary objective?
Algeria emphasized that the Palestinian issue is currently at its most challenging and perilous stage in history. Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf, during a meeting with his Bahraini counterpart Abdul Latif bin Rashid Al Zayani in Algiers on Sunday, highlighted that Zionist aggression against Gaza and other occupied Palestinian territories seeks to extinguish the Palestinian cause and dismantle associated national projects. Algeria expressed hope that the upcoming Arab summit in Manama will bolster Arab unity and restore their crucial role in supporting the Palestinian cause.
إننا في الجزائر
We in Algeria firmly believe that this issue is currently facing its most difficult, arduous and dangerous stage in its history amidst the ongoing Israeli aggression against our people in the Gaza Strip and in the rest of the occupied Palestinian territories, an aggression that has become evident to anyone as aiming, both overtly and covertly, at liquidating the Palestinian cause and eliminating the national project closely linked to it. From this perspective, we look forward to the Manama summit, hoping that it will contribute to enhancing the unity of the Arab nation and rallying its ranks so that our nation can assume its role in warding off the existential dangers threatening our countries and peoples, and so that our nation can regain its fundamental and pivotal role in advocating for its central cause, the Palestinian cause, and the cause of humanity as a whole.
The Algerian foreign minister highlighted the upcoming Arab summit in Manama as a crucial event occurring in a sensitive and dangerous time for the Arab nation, especially regarding the Palestinian issue.
ولا شك أن القمة العربية المرتقبة
Undoubtedly, the upcoming Arab summit in Manama represents the most prominent and important regional event that requires constant communication, continuous coordination, and exertion of all necessary efforts to ensure the conditions and prerequisites for the success of this historic occasion, in a manner that ensures the mobilization and direction of our collective efforts towards addressing the significant challenges that urgently demand attention and action today. The Manama summit comes as none of us is unaware, at a time of great sensitivity, crisis, and danger for our Arab nation in general, and for our central cause, the Palestinian issue in particular.
To other developments now to the United States, to be specific. At the University of Michigan graduation, students protested in support of Palestinians, but police made no arrests. Meanwhile, tension continues at graduation ceremonies nationwide, with police presence at the University of Southern California's event until May 9th, ensuring security amid ongoing protests.
It was very surprising, I think, to everyone, both media and the people in there. We were standing in Han Plaza, which is right by Tommy Trojan, and suddenly we just see cars and cars of LAPD and DPS. I would estimate 50 plus LAPD officers in semi-riot gear.
Similarly, University of Virginia security unit officials issued a warning on the X platform about illegal gatherings on campus. The university urged students to avoid specific areas due to increased police presence. The Gaza Solidarity Camp group criticized the university administration for turning the campus into a military zone and called for divestment from investment tied to the Zionist entity. And in Paris, supporters of Palestine gathered near the Fountain of the Innocents in the First District, demanding an end to Zionist aggression in Gaza. They protested against ongoing genocide crimes committed by the Zionist occupation. Additionally, demonstrators called for preventing Zionist athletes from participating in the upcoming Olympics, scheduled in Paris from July 26th to August 11th.
I say today that there are more than 30,000 dead in Gaza and that there are a considerable number of children who are at risk of dying if Rafah is invaded, which is actually planned by the IDF army. And so we, in fact, continue to mobilize for these issues and to defend ideas of freedom and justice, which today are denied by the government.
To other news now, 3 Lebanese were killed and several others were injured in a Zionist shelling on the town of Mais al-Jabal in southern Lebanon. Lebanese media reported that Zionist aircraft targeted civilians inspecting their homes damaged by previous airstrikes. In retaliation, Hezbollah launched dozens of Katyusha rockets at areas in northern occupied Palestinian territories, targeting the Kiryat Shamuna settlement. Heads of state and government from the Organization of Islamic Cooperation congratulated Algeria on the opening of the Great Mosque of Algiers, praising its significance as a spiritual, religious, scientific, cultural, and tourist center. The summit's closing statement underscored the mosque's role in promoting Islamic values of tolerance, moderation, and peaceful coexistence, fostering dialogue between civilizations, and strengthening international ties. Islamic leaders praised the first consultative meeting of Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya held last April. The summit's closing statement emphasized the leaders' collective determination to enhance regional security, stability, and development through intensified cooperation and coordination. They expressed a commitment to combating terrorism, human trafficking, drug trafficking, and organized crime, recognizing these as threats to the region's interests. Algeria and Libya reaffirmed their commitment to the trilateral framework with Tunisia aimed at serving their shared interests. This was expressed during discussions between Algerian Prime Minister Nadir al-Arbawi and Libyan Presidential Council Vice President Moussa al-Kouni at the 15th Islamic Cooperation Summit in Banjul, Gambia. A statement from the Algerian Prime Minister's office conveyed satisfaction with the consultative meeting in Tunisia attended by the leaders of Algeria, Tunisia, and Libya. Guinea-Bissau's President Umaro Sissoko Embalo renewed his commitment to bolstering bilateral ties with Algeria following his visit in August 2022. His talks with Algerian President Abdelmadjid Tebboune were described as significant and fruitful. This reaffirmation came following a meeting between Algerian Prime Minister Nadir al-Arbawi and President Embalo on the sidelines of the Organization of Islamic Cooperation Summit in Banjul, Gambia. To another African development now, Sahrawi President Ibrahim Ghali affirmed his people's unwavering commitment to their struggle for full freedom, independence, and sovereignty over their entire territory. Speaking at a press conference during a cinema festival in the Sahrawi refugee camps in the wilaya of Usard, Ghali emphasized that the Sahrawis remain in a state of war until they attain freedom and enforce respect for the borders of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic.
We are currently in a state of war. We will continue our struggle, regardless of the constraints. We will continue our fight, and we will not be deceived for the second time. So we will continue to negotiate and fight until our people achieve their goals, regaining their freedom and independence, and until the freedom of choice, as well as the borders of the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic, a founding member of the African Union, are respected.
Furthermore, the Sahrawi President Secretary General of the Polisario Front has said that the Sahrawi Republic still awaits a correction, let's say, in the biased stance of the Spanish government towards Morocco, deeming Madrid to have lost much ground since this shift.
ما هو السر؟ لماذا هذا التحول في الموقف؟
What is the secret? Why this change of position? Why this renunciation of the historic Spanish position? Why this submission to Moroccan blackmail? The agreement was that it should put an end to illegal migration. Illegal migration has doubled. The argument was that it should put an end to massive drug shipments. 3 days ago, at the borders, the police discovered a truck loaded with 26 tons of cannabis resin. The police discovered a truck loaded with 26 tons of cannabis.
And in another African development, Chadians are preparing for a high-stakes vote today with 10 contenders amid rising calls to reject foreign meddling. Osama Yadi reports.
After 3 years of transitional government, Chadians are gearing up to cast ballots on Monday to elect a new president. The election is seen as a ray of hope for a nation that's been stuck in a rut of unconstitutional rule following a series of coups in the region.
These voters are once again showing the maturity not only of the men in uniform but also of this transparency and above all this fairness.
Chad's candidates wrapped up their final campaign messages on Saturday, leaving voters on the edge as there is no clear front-runner in sight. The hopefuls are under pressure to deliver peace and stability, with high expectations riding on the outcome of the presidential race.
Our approach is one of co-construction. We're going out to meet Chadians to identify their demands, to exchange views with them, to dialogue with them, even to clarify a number of things.
The campaign messages are varied, but the spotlight is on the two main contenders, Success Marsa, the current Prime Minister of the transitional government, and Idriss Déby, the President of the transitional government. Both are eyeing the top spot in the country, with opposition parties and civil society groups urging a boycott of the vote.
I'm going to vote because I want peace and stability for my country. I've already chosen who I am going to vote for. You can easily guess because I'm wearing his campaign t-shirt with his photo.
The event marks the conclusion of the political transition initiated after the passing of former President Idriss Déby in April 2021. Chad's transition has been portrayed as legitimate, supported by regional, continental and Western stakeholders.
Time for the news in brief with Sofian Kinturi now.
The Libyan Supreme Council of State, in collaboration with the United Nations, examined the root causes and issues contributing to the Libyan crisis. This occurred during a meeting held at the Council headquarters on Saturday evening, where President of the Council Mohammed Takala met with the members of the Presidential Office, former UN envoy to Libya Abdullahi Batili, and Stefani Khouri, the Deputy for Political Affairs. The Electoral Commission in Togo declared that the ruling party won the majority of seats in the National Assembly in the legislative elections held on April 29th. These results expected to be confirmed by the Constitutional Court later, signifying an undisputed triumph for President Fauri's party, which has been in power since 2005, succeeding his father. Russia declared that its troops had gained control over a new village in Donetsk region of eastern Ukraine, adding to a string of territorial advances made by Moscow. According to the Ministry of Defense, Russian forces have completely taken over the village of Osherty in Donetsk, situated about 15 kilometers northwest of Divkia. The market value of Starbucks chain has decreased by approximately $38 billion since calls for boycotts following the Zion's aggression on Gaza. According to data from Bloomberg, Financial results for the first quarter of 2024 showed Starbucks experiencing its first quarterly sales decline in over 3 years.
Well, that's the end of our program. Thank you for tuning in to our channel. Until next time, take care.